King.us. Use promo code ROLLBLOB for 15% off. My name's Coop Ledford. I'm joined as always by Xavier Great, Kenny Freese, and Jason, a.k.a. Capmeyer, a.k.a. Capicola, a.k.a. the Space Cadet. A lot of people are calling him the Space Cadet.
Thank you.
After just
it doesn't sound good.
A fantastic, 3 spaces yesterday. Just
how long were we on spaces?
Several hours, yeah.
My brother texted me this morning. He's like, "Were you guys really just outside Cintas's parking lot, just talking about what cars you're seeing and stuff?" I was like, "Yeah, it was a wild day."
Yeah,
it was a wild day.
Yep, we were looking for someone else, but I think we're all very, very excited right now.
Yeah,
obviously, it's been a crazy 24 hours for a Xavier fan. Everyone thinking Chris Mack's going to be the head coach, with the reports of him being the favorite. That doesn't mean the favorite by the school,
just the odds-on favorite.
The odds-on favorite. Yeah. And then, of course, his tweet coming out. You read those first words, it says Cougar Nation. You think, oh, wow, this is an announcement that
he's about to leave.
And then a millisecond later, you read, can't wait to run it back in year 2. 39 minutes later, the Rothstein tweet hits that Richard Pitino is
while we're live.
So
that's what's cool is I listened to the space back last night because I'm a glutton. I listened to so much content today. I listened to Paul's space probably 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And I think Kenny, we all were talking right before we jumped on. It's just I'm just trying to process everything. This has just been the most wild 24 hours. And it's so funny in our space because it's just authentically, we're just hearing it as it comes and then just honestly just reacting to everything because we were just shocked.
I didn't even know that you guys were spacing.
Yeah, you jumped on at the very end.
Yeah, I got a text. So, like I said before, I think I told Paul or you guys or somebody that I was playing video games last night, and I looked down at my phone, and I had I'm not even joking, over 100 text messages. And then the first text that I see at the top was from Coop, and it was just like, "Are you available?" And I was like, "Oh, what happened?"
I texted you immediately. I'm like, "We got to get Kenny on the space," but. Yeah, I was on the phone with my girlfriend just in between all of that. I'm like, hey, I got to go. but Kenny, what's your overall vibe right now? I know we talked on the phone last night, and we were both very excited about it. How are you feeling 24 hours later?
So I think that for me, just because I'm so Xavier positive, Xavier oriented, and I said it in the stream last night, or in the spaces last night. You could have Elmo coaching the team, and I would be happy. I know you guys weren't happy about the red, but the thing is that for me, my knee-jerk reaction is always going to be super positive. I think when it comes to Xavier basketball, for a coaching change or anything like that, because I understand the pressure and the feeling of going to a new organization. Obviously, I never transferred in college, but professionally, and then my first year at Xavier, there's a lot of pressure that comes along with that. And Pitino's no stranger to it. This is his 3rd big stop, I think, and so he's used to kind of embracing that, the culture of a program, and that's the thing that I'm looking forward to most. But 24 hours later, I'm still pretty much in the same spot. I think that there's been, the more and more I read about him, the more excited I get, and I'm just really excited to see what happens with the guys he's able to retain, if he's able to retain anybody, and who he brings in.
Yeah, initially, this has got to be, and I heard Rick Browning said the same thing on his space, and I remember thinking this in the moment. I was like, is this the craziest Xavier story that we've ever experienced? And I don't know if it's not.
It probably is, because of the history of Xavier's hiring.
Yeah.
It's
this is, you've had a clear blueprint for 30-something years.
Yeah.
And this is a clear fork in the road. And then 2, just all the smoke was just pointing to it being Mac. You and I listened to Return of the Mac 40 times yesterday.
On your phone.
Yeah. All of the crazies were stacking up Mac memes. I was already stacking up Mac memes. We were already.
Even Shelby said that. The first thing he said when he got on was, when there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And it was, I think that 95% of the Xavier community was like, it's done.
Well-plugged people, it's just, that's the area that it's looking. There's mutual interest, and normally when there's mutual interest, those things get done quickly, and then you knew it had to move quickly. And I think it was weird. I remember it being 2, 3, or 4 o'clock yesterday. And I remember just talking to, it was one of you guys or my brother or something like that. I'm just like, are we officially kind of weirded out that nothing's done, at this point? I thought that something was going to be released yesterday morning. And so when it got to that point, I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, this is getting a little weird. And then, we're driving around Cintas. It's getting later in the night, like 6 o'clock-ish. And we're like, nothing's dropped yet.
Yeah.
So it was really weird. But I think it was just initial. It's so funny listening to Space from yesterday because the Mac thing drops. We go live immediately.
Yeah.
And you hear us all just freaking out.
Yeah.
Like, we're all like, what the heck is going on here?
And I think that just shows you how fast this stuff moves.
Yeah.
And there's such enormous decision. I can't say it. Decisions. There's such enormous decisions that you have. It feels like they shouldn't move that quick, but they have to. So you're having all these people, and it's all the different personalities from the candidates to the people that are hiring. Greg Christopher, like all that stuff, having to meld all that together, and you have 48 hours to do a coach search. That's wild.
And there's so much pressure too. I mean, because the portal, you got to get it going ASAP. Like, so you have to get it moving. Like, I can only imagine the sleep that the staff was getting, the lack of sleep. We're all exhausted. Can you imagine?
Right.
You have to get that going, but you also have to do your due diligence and make sure you're making the right decision. So it's tough, but it's just, I can't lie to you. It's been so much fun. Okay. And then just from Fanta's perspective, Fanta's got a national pulse. I mean, Fanta's a huge name now in the industry, and he's only going to keep getting bigger. He's not just Big East. He's national. And for him to say the things that he said last night about, how national the draw will be for Xavier. And, he was saying that the biggest game of the Big East will be Xavier St. John's.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, can you imagine the eyeballs that we've never had it
at MSG?
Oh my God.
Right. We had talked about one of the points that I brought up when I first heard about it was the national draw that he brings from an NIL recruiting standpoint.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought of that part of it yet, but when you're talking about just getting eyes on a TV, this hire is like, I mean, you're going to have, and I said it in a different way, but it still makes sense. With Mac, it was going to galvanize everybody in Cincinnati. And I think that Pitino will as well, maybe not to the same degree just because Mac was here for so long. He's the winningest coach, all that stuff. And he'll have to build that up. But it's going to draw more national attention than the hire with the Mac.
We already got a Sports Center tweet about it. When's the last time Sports Center has tweeted about the Xavier Musketeers? 2009?
I mean, well, it would only been something basketball related. Like, if you hire Mac, Sports Center's not covering it.
Kenny was probably involved in it, to be fair, the last time it was.
Possibly. I can't remember.
We were the first story
I can't remember what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Richmond, maybe somewhere.
It was the rebound you got against Purdue on
huge.
the missed free throw and dunked it.
An airplane.
That was it.
Yeah. But I think this is kind of like a high tide raises all boats kind of situation where we've never been in a national spotlight over like a year-long basis, because I think the pulse will be tracking Pitino. He's going to be a national name all season. It'll be a national storyline. Can you imagine we get a St. John's semifinal or final game at Madison Square Garden in the Big East tournament?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be insane. And it's a whole different level. It's a whole different ball game. I don't know about you guys, just absorbing Italian culture, bottom tier Italian culture and memes and stereotypes. Like, I remember I tweeted out, it was like David West, Gabagool, Blue Blob, like spaghetti, like I remember I tweeted like Richard Pitino, Xavier Musketeers.
Right.
It's just a weird mishmash. It feels like a simulation. You know what I mean? So I think we're all just processing it. But once you start to process it, we all had our hearts set on Mac. But I think once you start to take this in, like, yo, this could be a ceiling that we've never been to before from a national perspective. So it's so exciting, man. Like,
I know
it's so exciting.
And I mean, I think that before we talk about this year, because there's so many unknowns, I know that Coop, you've been talking to me a little bit about what Pitino's done at Minnesota and at New Mexico. I mean, obviously, I think some of the talent that he's been able to recruit to those places and develop has been pretty impressive, and he's been able to do it in the NIL era as well. So, I mean, and that's what Xavier's always been about. But these days, you just don't have that freshman year, sophomore year, and you see that steady growth. Now it's like you get a guy, and people always talk about, well, you got to do more with less, right? That you hear that all the time. So you go out and buy a guy. You go out and pay a guy a little cheaper, and you're like, well, we'll develop him. You have 3 months to develop that player. So it's an impressive thing to do if you're able to still do it in this era. So, I mean, Coop, what have you really learned about what he's done at Minnesota and New Mexico?
Well, going back to Minnesota, that was the biggest, I would say, red flag, if you want to call it that people were talking about is look at what he did at Minnesota. It wasn't much. To be fair, Minnesota among a Power 5 job is not a good one. It's very tough. It's not going to be
and it's
easy.
Like you said last night, he was 30 years old.
He was 30 years old.
That's insane.
I'm 28 years old. I can't imagine in 2 years coaching a Big Ten basketball team with the expectation to go.
The fact that he's 42 blew my mind.
Yeah.
13 years of head coaching experience.
But that's part of it, him starting so young at Minnesota. And to be fair, he wasn't unsuccessful.
Can I say this? You don't have a high major job for 8 years if you're a bad coach. They're going to can you in 3 years if you're bad. Like 8 years is a long time to hold down a big time, not a big time job, but a Power 5 job.
Yeah, and he still took Minnesota to the NCAA tournament twice. They won an NIT, and I mean he struggled to, like, you're not getting the top talent at Minnesota, no matter who their head coach is. They've had big coaches there, like Tubby Smith before. Like you're not going to get you're not going to get big time players there. And I was reading back in 2014. He had his backcourt. I have their names written down here. DeAndre Matthew was 5'9", and Andre Holland 6'2". That was their backcourt.
Yeah,
and he made it work. And that's one thing that, as I've read about him and listened to podcasts and videos about him, the word that keeps coming up is that he's adaptable. So he's going to take whatever team he has, and he's going to craft it to make it work. So one team 1 year might have a completely different philosophy than another team. Whatever he has to work with is what's going to happen. Now that he's at Xavier, though, with more NIL money compared to New Mexico, maybe he can kind of craft more of what he really wants, because you can only do so much with your resources.
Do you think he can do more with more?
I think he can do more with more. I'm confident in that.
I like that.
That's good.
Confident in
That's
that.
good.
And then go ahead, Ken.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that that's a really big skill that not all coaches have, especially the old school coaches. And I would probably put Miller in that. I would probably put Miller in that group, as far as, like, the do what we do. Our plan, like they used to say all the time, like, everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the mouth, that Mike Tyson thing. And it's like, I feel like the skill of being able to adapt to what your team has to offer and kind of change that up a little bit, not necessarily like completely changing schemes and stuff, because you want a coach to, like, get good at something and kind of expand on it through his career. But the ability to do that to some degree and use the players that you have rather than the players that you wish you had is something that not all coaches are able to do. And it seems like that's what he is.
Yeah, and there's one thing that seems to be consistent throughout all the teams he's had, really halfway through Minnesota up to this season's New Mexico team, is that they're very good at forcing turnovers, and they run a very fast offense. So we'll see how the pieces, kind of come together at Xavier this year with the roster. But that's
something I was thinking too is Rick Pitino was at Iona, right? And Rick Pitino was at Iona, and he succeeded there, but to what degree? I think there's something to be said about being in your kind of environment, and I don't think that Minnesota is Richard Pitino's environment. I think he identifies with the Northeast. He identifies with the Big East. And look what Rick Pitino is doing in year 2 at St. John's. And I'm not saying Rich Pitino is Rick Pitino, and I'm not saying that St. John's and Xavier are synonymous, but you give him the assets of this big program, the revenue sharing that we're going to have, you put him in Madison Square Garden, give him the environment, the marketability that we're going to have, and it could be a whole different stratosphere. Because the same guy can be different in one environment and different in another environment. Sometimes people need to be in the right place for them, and I don't think New Mexico is his bloodline. Minnesota is not his bloodline.
And this is definitely going to be the best fan base that he's ever had. I mean, you're not going to find many fan bases that are better than Xavier's. And I mean, obviously, I'm saying that as a biased Xavier fan, but I don't think that I think that there are people that aren't fans of Xavier that would say that.
Oh, you're seeing it everywhere. I mean, you're seeing people that have no interest in us at all, or no bias, no reason to be invested in us, saying, like, yeah, these Xavier guys are that they've been about this life for a long time.
Right.
Look what we did during the Texas game, a first 4 game in Dayton, just absolutely nuts atmosphere from people that were objective. My second thought was this: we had a lot of conversations about the loyalty piece and not even the loyalty piece. I would say the consistency piece of how long Miller was here. And, we want someone that stays and all those kind of things. I was talking to Ahmad, friend of the program, and I honestly think that this has made us adaptable. The fact that we've had to turn over so much, because you see a lot of programs that have a coach for a certain amount of time, 15, 20 years, and they don't know how to recover when they're gone. They don't know how to conduct a job search. They don't know how to adapt. I think that's made us stronger as a basketball program, and it's made us independent of a coach. Like Xavier basketball.
Look at Syracuse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Look at Nova right now. You know what I mean? Like Jay Wright's gone and Nova's in trouble.
I almost wonder, how much of this do you think happened because of that search firm that they brought in? Like, do you think that Richard Pitino was even on?
From what I know, a search firm was used during the Travis Steele hire as well. From what I remember,
I just don't really know how that all works. So I was
I think Rich Pitino's name was on the short list and from the very beginning.
Does he start going by Rich now?
I hear Rich, I hear Richard, and I hear Richard Pitino Jr.
Because I think it's similar to UConn's logo. I think when UConn goes old logo with tongue out, they're like number 2 in the country. When they go new logo, they're like maybe top 25. I think Rich Pitino is top 5 head coach in the country. Richard Pitino is a good coach, but Rich Pitino is a problem. But I think there's a lot to this story here, and I think the biggest thing to me is this is a clear fork in the road for Xavier culture. And I think that was one thing that disappointed us to some degree is Mac is our guy, and we know what we're going to get. That Mac is Xavier culture through and through, played here, from here. So I think we knew what we were going to get in some degree, and we're like, oh, Xavier's back.
This is a conversation that I had today, and I think one of the biggest obstacles for Pitino coming in is understanding where Xavier came from and where we are today, and understanding the culture and just the feeling of Cintas Center that got us there. I mean, dude, there's not, and I've said this multiple times, but there is not a lot of programs that in 25 years went from being a mid-major in the A10 to a team that was a 1 seed 8 years ago. That you just don't see that. And that's something that is in the blood of Xavier fans and the players that played there. I mean, I was talking to CJ and and all these guys. It's like we were a part of that ascension, right? I mean, I'm not saying I was a huge part of it, but I know that 2 was, and I know that JP McCura was, and I know that David West was, and Lionel Chalmers and Romaine Sato. Like, these are guys that they're etched into Xavier lore forever. And I hope that there's an acceptance of the past as you move into the future, because that's what's going to keep the fans, that's what's going to keep the fan base going for forever. I mean, winning solves all those problems if you do it or not. But if you don't necessarily perform to the point of going to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 in your first year, having that to fall back on and to embrace what that culture is, I think that that's something that will be really helpful to him. And I have heard from people that, with New Mexico, I think Fanta was talking about it. Yeah. How he really got into, I don't even know who their rival is, to be honest with you. But I know that he was talking about that he got into that rivalry and was super fired up about it. So I hope that there's still some of that and some Xavier people around that he trusts that can kind of let him flourish in that environment.
Yeah, I think Fanta hit on that, and I think Fanta has as good of a pulse as anybody on that kind of stuff. And he said that Pitino is the kind of guy that gets it and wants to immerse himself in the culture of where he is.
Right.
So he was saying he's going to want to be out there and invest in the community. He's going to want to know the culture and the lore and invest in the fan base and that kind of thing. So we'll see if that actually happens, but I think that's a good sign.
I mean, that's kind of like baseline now for NIL alone. It's baseline, but I think that at Xavier even more, there's just that extra step because the fan base, just because of the fan base and what the fan base will give to you if you.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you invest in them, and I think like you said, and you hit it on too, it's like Xavier, I think, takes basketball basketball is everything here. Mm-hmm. There are a few things in this city or in this town, in this culture that aren't going well that we will flip the heck out. Like if basketball just has to be good here,
right.
You have to. Like it's not like a nice to have. It's not Texas where it's like, oh, basketball's not good, football. Because like if I heard someone say on a Barstool podcast today, a football fan, they're like, I would trade 5 basketball national championships for 1 football championship. That's the if you're at Ohio State and football's good, no one cares about basketball.
No. If you're at Texas and football's good, no one cares about basketball.
That's fair. And
Ohio State beat them,
and which is just an arbitrary school that we're just throwing out there.
Right.
Texas.
Just an example.
Just an example. Could be any of those guys.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're not good here, it just has to be good. But also what comes with that though is if he comes in here and invests in the culture, like it's going to be jumping.
You know what's I think going to help a lot is the Crosstown Shootout is at Cintas this year. So well, think about it. Think about Quincy Oliveri, coming in, spending the last 4 years at Rice. No one has to buy into it. You're here for 1 year. You're raising your draft stock or whatever, and Xavier needs a roster spot. They need a scorer. He comes here. It's almost like a business decision on paper, but comes here, Cintas Center, goes crazy, wins the game, and then it's like I feel like that was kind of a turning point for him. So I think if you're a coach and it's like, man, let's see what this is all about. Pretty early in the season, you're playing in arguably the biggest rivalry in college basketball.
I'm just going to throw a couple ideas out there. You beat Cincinnati, and he turns to the student section and does this.
That would do it.
Or we win at Hinkle, and you see a social media post of him drinking from the water fountain.
That would do it too.
That'll do it.
That'll do.
That kind of stuff gets you so much investment, especially if we're good.
Oh yeah.
If we're being good also covers a multitude of things.
Yeah.
But I do just think too, and Kenny, I think this is maybe a big topic tonight too, the revenue sharing stuff. There was that banger of a tweet. Also, too, it's been reported that he's going to be bringing Fox College Hoops father and son duo. Like this is just a different level of national media here. But you talked about the revenue sharing piece, I think we need to get into, and then it has been reported he's going to bring his whole staff. Essentially, is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Paul just tweeted it, and it looks like they've accepted the offer. So just of note, but
they do have one assistant coach who's supposedly one of the front runners for the New Mexico job, so that could be a spot.
Which I'm hoping they have decent relationships with Dent.
Right.
I'm just hoping
that
they have good relationships.
Sure, they at least know it.
I would assume that was part of the thought. Is hey, there's
their pitch to him is going to be do more with less.
do more with more. Yeah. Kenny, do you have any comments on the revenue side of things? I think that you have a bigger pulse on that than I do.
So Ben Holler was the one that was talking about it, and I believe your space.
Great call. Yeah.
And so I understand what revenue sharing is, but I didn't know how it was going to work in college basketball. And basically what he was saying is because of the football schools and the amounts of money that we get, like obviously Xavier is going to get less than Ohio State, right? But Ohio State is giving 80% of the money to the football team. So if let's say it's $20 million and they get 80% of that, that's what, 16 million. And then that's $4 million for the rest of the programs. And the basketball team's going to get 15% of that. So then you're getting like $3 million from that. Xavier, let's say we only get $8 million, but we're taking 80% of that. We're going to get $6 million. So even though we're getting less than half of what Ohio State's getting, we're getting double the amount of NIL money for the basketball team. And that's a big deal.
I love that. And it's the same thing with basketball. Like if basketball is not good here, you hit the panic button, you do whatever you got to do. Same thing at these football schools. Like if Texas football, just throwing out an arbitrary school here, if Texas football is not good, they're siphoning more money from basketball to make sure football's good.
Correct.
That's the number one priority.
Mm-hmm.
We will do the opposite, but for basketball.
Now, this doesn't negate the fact that there are bigger donors there and that stuff, but it gives you a $4 or $5 million head start.
Absolutely. And
that could make a dent.
That could make a dent.
That'll do it. And then too, I think of I think that Xavier has I think it's almost a layup that you get your most viewed Xavier regular season game of all time this year.
Right. Yeah.
Xavier at St. John. And so all of these, again, I think all these tides raise all boats. And then it's what player doesn't want to be a part of that? The more national attention you have, the better your marketability is. The better your marketability is, the more money you make. The more money you make, the better players you can get. I just feel like it's a high tide raises all boats situation. So it's very exciting. I was disappointed because I was gassed up for Mac, man. Like I was excited to run that back. I already had the mental movie of Return of the Mac, coming out on the motorcycle during, Musketeer Madness, ready to go. But once I thought about this, and especially hearing John Fanta talk about it from a national perspective, I was like, this you have potential. The ceiling has been raised. Right. If we get there, I don't know, but
I think that's part of just the reaction yesterday. Didn't really have too much to do with the decision they made. I think it was just the emotion of thinking it was something, and then 39 minutes later, the coach who you thought was coming made that tweet. 39 minutes later, you have a different coach.
Yeah,
I think it was just that roller coaster. I think I put a poll out on our Twitter, on the Roll Blob Twitter, just simply asking if you like the hire, a yes or no question. We have around 400 votes, and 76% of people say yes. So that's an overwhelming majority. So I think as people, and I saw a lot of tweets saying this, after sleeping on it and looking into it more, I think a lot of people are very excited about it. I know, Kenny, you and I were pumped about it.
I'm stoked,
last
dude.
night.
I've been jumping all day, and I probably slept I woke up at 4 a.m, and you know how long we were spacing last night. Like, I've been jacked up all day. It's super exciting, man. Like, Xavier's never been this nationally relevant.
Yeah. And I think, like, the other part of this too is not just the players that you get, but the style of play. And I think that they're going to play a very fun style of basketball, looking to score a lot of points, being aggressive on defense. Coop, you had given us a little breakdown of that as far as, his kind of play style.
Yeah, a lot of half-court presses. They do force a lot of turnovers. They get in the lanes. I mean, when you
pack line's dead.
Yeah, but I mean, whenever you look at it, ball movement, efficient offense, forcing turnovers, fast break points.
Yep.
That's a recipe for success right there. Now you throw in Big East caliber players. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever he's done at New Mexico, it's all been great at New Mexico, obviously. But you take that to the next level in the Big East. I mean, you have to be excited about it.
I mean, and that's the part of this that it really disappoints me that we don't have Dalen Swain. Like, he would have fit in perfectly to the. I mean, he is the ultimate pick six basketball player. Like, he's.
Oh my God.
I mean, how many? What game was it where he got like?
I think it was Butler.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was Butler, because they were like kind of bringing it back, and then all of a sudden he had like 4 or 5 quick steals for dunks, and he's just like smiling and laughing, dunking the ball.
It looked like an NBA kid against high school. Like, It was like that embarrassing for Butler to be throwing him the ball that many times. It was ugly.
You know what? One quick thing that I want to bring up too, completely outside of any of the coaching stuff, the way that Big East Twitter has come at Texas is incredible. And there's been a lot of Xavier fans that have been going at him, but I mean, Kyle the Butler fan, right? Like, me and him have had a couple, scuffles on Twitter, but he puts that out there, and I was like, you know what? That's plus 1 point for Finkel Fieldhouse as far as I'm concerned.
1,000, and that's coming from you too.
Yeah, right.
That's when you know it's real. Yeah. This also has been such a fun time on, like, Twitter has been unbelievable. Yeah. We've seen it from our, like, it's just been.
And insane. for the most part, it's been just like, jabs about culture, like barbecue and stuff like that, and it hasn't gotten to the point of like
nothing's been.
Some of it has been. Some of it's been pretty crazy, but for the most part, I think that everybody's kept it pretty simple.
There's always going to be a few bad
lowest common denominator, but I think for the most part, your 90-95% is just super excited, embracing this, and just taking on this identity. And I do think it is a culture shock. Like, mixing, and again, what's great, we don't even know if Richard Pitino really identifies with all of the Italian stuff, but it is just definitely a huge mix of culture, and it's definitely a fork in the road from the blueprint that we know. But sometimes you got to change and adapt to get that final 2%.
I grew up. My grandma is 100% Italian, so I grew up with a lot of that stuff in my life. And just like the food and the sayings and all that stuff. So I'll be right at home, man. I love it.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad that you guys are both in that boat, because I need to take a crash course on, what we can and can't do.
Right.
We're learning together. You know what I mean? Like, Pitino's got to learn us. We got to learn Pitino.
I saw somebody on Twitter. They put it said like Duolingo's all set up, and they put the video of Family Guy when he's just like Babada Boopy.
But it's gonna be awesome, man. Like I think it's so fun. I think you got to embrace it.
Mhm.
Here we are, let's support our guys, and we have a chance to do some crazy stuff here.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been nuts. I would love to hear from the chat, like, what are you guys talking about? What have you been talking to? Because I know I called my brother today. I called my dad today. I talked to Ahmad for an hour on the drive home. Like, this is just nuts.
I know to kind of close out here, you put a tweet out asking people just for some topics or some questions. Or is there anything?
There was a bunch of stuff. A lot of it is going to be conjecture, I think, right now. Maybe if you want to maybe kind of read through that, but I know it's guys are. I think Xavier people are worried about Xavier culture. I think they're worried about losing our essence, and will we stay, Xavier?
I think that there's two parts to that though. Like Pitino can come in and he's a bigger part of it, right? Like he can foster that a lot easier than like the fans kind of self-motivating. But I think the fans in general need to just show him what the Xavier culture is when they come to a game, show him what it is instead of making him come and find it. You know what I mean? Like he's going to have a little bit of a learning curve and just kind of learning who Xavier is as a university, but the fans need to just, in my opinion, and I kind of said it on my first reaction to you last night, was be positive, give them every opportunity to succeed. If there's a little hiccup in the beginning, don't act like it's the end of the world like we all tend to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically all I got for that.
God, it's going to be insane, man.
I know.
The crosstown at Cintas's year.
I think the first game of the season is going to be crazy.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Just like, I mean, you're talking about the big games. Just the first couple games of the season, getting the first look at the team he's put together and all the guys. Like, and we're only, 6 months from that? Perfect.
This just feels big time, man. Like, this feels big time. I can't wait to see when he talks about the presser because he's going to have a banger, presser.
I wonder
this
when
is
that's
a
going to
huge
be.
deal for him. I don't know when the presser is. Someone actually asked.
From what I've heard, I think it's possible that it's on Friday. If not, I'd assume on Monday.
And again, we should be getting news soon on that. But this is a big deal for his career. He goes to Minnesota, had a decent run. Like I said, you don't get 8 years at a big school, for nothing. And then, it's tough when you have to go backwards and then go forwards. So
right.
For him to be in this position, and also too, I think what we forget about is I think that he had a huge chance at the Nova job. And I think that Xavier was just moving quicker and had sense of urgency here, but I think he was a huge target for the Nova job. So, and again, Nova's been with coachless for a while now, which is bold.
Yeah.
Bold move. I'm glad we got it done quick. I'd be excited to hear what happens once Nova fills that spot. I'll be excited to hear what Fanta has to say because I'm sure Fanta will have insight on Pitino was a big target for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it seems like Willard's doing a dance with Maryland and Nova. It's a mess.
Yeah.
You don't want to be coachless in prime portal season.
I mean, would you rather have crab cakes or a Philly cheesesteak? That's what it comes down to.
1,000%. I'm a crab cakes guy.
I'm going crab cakes.
Absolutely.
Really? I've never had a crab cake. So
crab cakes are incredible. Philly cheesesteaks. I can get a good Philly cheesesteak at Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's,
Jersey Michaels. But I think there's a lot to that, and it's gonna be a wild ride, man. It's gonna be a wild ride.
It is.
A lot. I'm just excited to see what he brings to the table. I'm excited to see what he talks about in his presser. I'm excited to see what his mentality is what his talking points are going to be, and kind of his approach, because we know nothing really.
Right.
Other than who the coach is, and from what we've heard about Fanta, but we don't know what he's going to say. We don't know what his priorities are going to be and how he's going to go about his business, and especially us as media, kind of. We just don't know what it's going to look like for us, what it's going to look like for any. Like, there's just a lot of unknowns, and will he eat Scott? I don't know what he's going to do. It's wild to think, like, 20 years ago, if I was going to go back to 12-year-old me, be like, yeah, dude, we're going to have a Pitino as Xavier's head coach, and he's going to be eating Skyline chili ice cream. I'd be like, what the heck are you talking about?
Right.
What simulation are you living in, brother? Like, the future's crazy. Like, I
have a feeling I think there's a much better chance that he tries Skyline than Skyline chili ice cream.
I do too. I don't even think you can find that anymore. It's delicious.
I guess I'm just pointing out the fact that I never thought I'd hear a Pitino as Xavier men's basketball coach Pitino.
Absolutely.
It's strange, but I'm embracing it, and I'm gonna get some Fazoli's, I think, tonight to celebrate.
Breadsticks hit.
Exactly. So it's wild times, man. It's so much fun. Like, how cool is it too to like have it like to be able to do that moment live last night? Have all, and I think it's cool for the community, and I think the community's grown like crazy too. Yeah. Like I think our Xavier, and I think that's a huge value piece to the program. It's having a community that's this invested.
Right.
And I think the stronger we are as a community, let's be honest, it's valuable. It is. I'm not gonna overstate it, but I'm not gonna
obviously we have a selfish reason to grow this community. Like we want to be a part of it. We want to do this and get to hang out with everybody. Us three hang out, like it's awesome. But I think that there's also, like you're saying, like it's a big deal for the fan base to have something like this, because at the end of the day, you know, like the message boards a lot of times are super negative. Even when things are going great, you're still going to find people that they're being negative about something. And I feel like having a podcast like us, that we don't take everything too seriously, except for when we do, like when it's a huge game and those things, like so just having this kind of outlet for people to, number one, come in and just say stupid stuff, and you're not worried about like us feeling like the question's too dumb or whatever.
The authenticity piece is huge.
Right. So I think that moving forward, continuing to grow our podcast is going to be great for the fan base as a whole.
I had a lot of DMs today, just like, dude, that was so much fun last night. Like being able, and I think we want that. And I can tell you as a fan, like the Twitter, I can't imagine being a Xavier fan without the Twitter stuff now.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I do.
I mean, literally, I was on a Xavier fan island for my first like 25 years of my life and we didn't even know each other without Twitter.
Right.
And now we're best buds. You know what I mean? I see you at McPick every single night now.
Yeah, it's true.
So I think it's huge for the fan base, and we want that too. Like, well, yes, we love it for our purposes too. It's like, I think we want that for everybody. We want everyone to have that inclusivity. How fun is it for all of us to get together at Dana's after a banger of a game? Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun for everyone, and we want that for everyone. I think anyone that was in the space last night would be lying. They said that wasn't a blast,
right?
You know, to be able to share that together. So it's great times. I think it just continues to grow and grow and grow, and it's an asset to the university. And let's keep this thing building, baby.
So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think at the risk of just like talking in circles here, because there's only so much information to talk about, and I think that, you know, Coop did a lot of good work today, finding some topics for us to talk about that we just haven't been talking about for the last 2 days.
Yeah.
But I really don't think that I have much left. If we have some questions from anybody or anything like that on Twitter.
I saw a couple things of note, and I agree with you. I also think it might be a good idea to get some sleep and play the long game here, because
not much. We really haven't slept much. So
dude, I don't know if I've ever been less productive at my day job than I was today. I was just crawling through
I wish I had that option.
Yeah, that must, exactly. Wish you could be broke like me. Jack P said early next week for the press conference. I don't know if anything's been announced or not, but we have that of note. Ian says that JP gave the stamp of approval to Pitino. So
that's pretty big.
We like that.
Yeah,
we like that. I've heard of JP McCura. I know that name. Some people do, but I think that's pretty much about it. But I agree with you, Kenny. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think it's going to continue to go, and I know that we will continue to be here to keep, you know, this train going, because I think we're all just, you know, this is fun times as a Xavier fan.
Yeah, let's go eat some penne. You know.
Yeah, I'm a big ZD guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure Ian would burn his.
I'm gonna have some arrabbiata penne, and I think
it's gonna be. It's just gonna be a bunch of Amore. My whole life is full of Amore. I'm gonna bump that trap remix when we get out of here.
Amore Xavier. Anyways, for Kenny Freese, for Jason, aka Cap Meyer, the Space Cadet, Capicola, I'm Coop Ledford. Follow us all on Twitter. Our handles are down there. Kenny,
Blobagool.
2 more words to sign us off.